The copybook way of finishing your picture is what we like to call a two-part varnish finish. What does that mean? It's simple. It means we're going to use two different varnishes to finish off the picture. So, the first varnish we will use is a polymer varnish, a water-based acrylic. That could be a matte, a satin, or a gloss, doesn't really matter. Obviously, whatever the sheen level that you're looking for. Reduce the polymer varnishes with about 10% water and nice thin coats. 2 or 3 is what you need to apply. That is also called the isolation coat. So we'll just go off on a tangent for 1 second. An isolation coat is a coat of varnish that will, as the name suggests, isolate everything that's gone on before it. So for instance, if you've been doing a lot of glazing and you want to make sure everything's held together, then put an isolation coat on, or a coat of water-based polymer varnish, and that will act to isolate everything underneath it so that none of it will move if you go to do some more glazing, and you can paint over the top, glaze over the top, do whatever you like. But for the two-part varnish system, once we've applied our water-based varnish and let it dry well, we're then going to apply a solvent-based varnish. Why are we going to use a solvent-based varnish over the water-based varnish? Well, the water-based varnishes, like the paints, will dry with microscopic capillary holes in them. Now, if you only get to varnish your painting with a water-based varnish, it's still going to protect it, so don't be too worried. But for the perfect, the copybook finish, a solvent-based, it's still acrylic, but a solvent-based acrylic varnish will completely close the surface off because it dries in a different way. The Turps, which is what the solvent is, that the acrylic is dissolved in, is released out of the acrylic, and the finish is completely impervious, completely inert. So it won't let anything in, not even oxygen, not even water. So to go off on a slight tangent again, if you're looking for a really good final finish for something, artwork that's going outside, out in the elements, the Turps-based varnishes are the perfect finish. Once again, matte, gloss or satin. Make sure you have at least 2 coats applied to your work. Thin coats are what you're trying to achieve. A nice soft brush commensurate with the size of your work. If I was doing something the size of this table, sort of 3 by 3 foot or 1 metre by 1 metre roughly, I would want a brush no smaller than that, preferably a bit bigger. As far as health and safety goes, the water-based varnishes, if you're brushing them on, not a problem. But the solvent-based varnishes, you definitely want to be in a well-ventilated area, or preferably wearing a mask, because you're dealing with mineral terps. Another advantage of the solvent-based varnish, aside from it being inert and completely impervious to water or oxygen or anything like that, and so therefore protecting the paint underneath, is that the varnish can be removed. And indeed you need to remove the varnish again. If you want to continue painting, you can paint over the top of the water-based varnishes, but you have to strip the Turps-based varnishes off, because the Turps-based varnishes will not allow the paint to stick as well as the water-based varnishes will. And so you may actually find, if conservators come along down the track to try and clean your work, they may actually remove those subsequent coats of paint that you put over. So in summary, we've got our two-part system where we're putting the isolation coat on of a water-based polymer varnish, at least 2 coats, preferably more, diluted with a bit of water, start with about 10%. Leave at least 24 hours to dry between coats, especially before you then put the next couple of coats of solvent-based varnish on, because that's not going to let any water out. It will not let any more drying take place. So at least 24, if not 48 hours, even longer if you can give it before you put the solvent-based varnish on. 24 hours between those coats, and your work will be totally protected. And of course the solvent-based varnish can be stripped back off, so if you want to continue painting, or indeed if conservators get hold of your work, many decades down the track and they need to clean off stuff that will adhere to anything over time, the Turps-based varnish can be removed very easily by conservators or even yourself, and then a new coat put over the top. So if you're looking for the best practice in finishing your artwork, have a look at the two-part varnish system. And remember, varnishing's a little bit like singing. Everyone thinks they can do it, but not everyone's well practiced at it. So maybe having a little bit of a practice on a piece of cardboard or an old work that doesn't matter so much is a good idea first. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.